What's up, everybody? This is the Hedge Mage, and welcome back to another video and another look at some of my favorite new cards from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Today, we're taking a look at my top three new red cards that were just printed at the common rarity from this set. We'll be taking a look at exactly what these cards do and how impactful they might be on the Pauper metagame as a whole, and whether or not they are worth your consideration for any builds that you may be trying to do or improve. As always, guys, if you enjoy the content that I create, if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate the support. And with that said, let's get into it. Well, the first card we're taking a look at is Mind Raider. For 2 generic mana and a red, you get a human rogue that has trample. When Mind Raider enters the battlefield, if you control another outlaw, create a treasure token. And it is a 3/2. So I think this card is pretty interesting as like maybe a potential hit for a Gruul Cascade, or even maybe like a big red deck that runs things like what's it, the Crimson Fleet Commodore or Boarding Party, as both of those are outlaws. And so you can basically make some more mana with this, or just get another artifact out for if you want to make sure you got your Metalcraft for things like Galvanic Blast. So this card actually does seem pretty playable. It is a 3/2 trample, so 3/2 beats from this are definitely uh, something worth considering. It is a 3-drop, so I definitely think it's not going to fit into any deck in red. Like, I don't think this is going to become a red staple by any means, which is why I kind of have it at the bottom of the list. I definitely think that this card is a playable card, but I think the builds around it are going to be rather niche. I think this is, we have seen things like Jewel Thief, which does a pretty similar thing to this. Obviously, you have to build around this a little bit more and making sure that your creatures are all outlaws, or at least the vast majority of them are, in order to create the treasure token, as you're not going to really want to whiff on that treasure token. So you kind of want to make sure you have another outlaw in play by the time you play this card. But it definitely seems like a decent thing to hit off of a cascade trigger, so that's probably where I would place it in terms of what kind of deck it might fit into. At the end of the day, it is a 3-drop, so you gotta be running some type of ramp, or just be kind of more of a slower, grindier, mid-range type of deck. So definitely very much a Timmy card. I do rather like it. I think it is a cool card, but as fast as the format can be, you don't really see a whole lot of 3-drops being played. It's mostly going to be 1 or 2 drops, since most decks do have a lower mana curve. Still is a pretty good card. And my number 2 card is Reckless Lackey. For 1 red, you get a Goblin Pirate. It has first strike and haste, and for 2 generic mana and a red, you can sacrifice Reckless Lackey, draw a card, and create a treasure token. It is a 1/2. So we got a new hasty goblin in the format. And generally I think this card is alright. Definitely does basically everything you want a goblin to do for Koldatha Red, as it creates an artifact if you sacrifice it, which means it's gonna increase the artifact count for some things like Galvanic Blast. So it'd be easier to make sure you have Metalcraft, as well as creating a sacrifice trigger for Goblin Blast Runner, as you need to have sacrificed something for it to get its, I think it's +2/+0 and Menace. So that kind of turns on that card, which, beats from the Blast Runner are nothing to shake a stick at. Also, another thing about this is that it does give you card advantage. Also, the artifact as well also turns on your Goblin Tomb Raider. So it does a lot, honestly, but I really wish its power and toughness were switched. If it was a 2/1 first strike, I think I would probably have put this card at the top of the list. However, it is not. Sadly, I mean, the 2 toughness does make it pretty survivable to a lot of board wipes in the format, as most of the board wipes in the format are just going to hit for toughness 1. But There are a few two toughness board wipes as well, and there is one three toughness one, though ever since that one got downshifted, I think it was maybe in I honestly can't remember. It's like one of the remastered sets, I believe. Um, yeah, but hasn't really seen play, but for mana sweepers, you don't really see very often. So this does survive a lot of the board wipes in the format, so I guess there is an argument for it there. And maybe Cold Out the Red does want to play more Goblin Grenades in it, as that is a pretty decent one mana burn spell. This is a goblin, so you could potentially, if you want to run more goblin grenades, maybe think about this in your Kuldotha red decks. I'm really not sure about this card on whether it is truly something that Kuldotha red wants. It does basically hit all the numbers in terms of things that synergize with the deck, though, so I think it does have some amount of consideration. Though I'm personally not going to be switching up my Kuldotha build for this card, and which is why I don't have it at the top of the list right now. It is, I think, a pretty decently powered card, does a lot of things, but will it actually see play? That I think right now remains to be seen. I know I'd seen at least one Koldatha deck that was trying this, but we'll see how that corrects itself in the future. Definitely a very interesting goblin coming into the format. And my top new red card from this set is gotta be Highway Robbery. For one generic and a red, it is a sorcery. You may discard a card or sacrifice a land. If you do, draw two cards. It also has plot, and though I'm generally not that interested in plot as a mechanic, as I don't really like basically wasting a turn to do nothing, I think in Rakdos Madness, this card actually seems like it might be kind of good. It is not. It is at sorcery speed though. It would definitely be, I think, an auto include if it was an instant, especially since we just got things like Demand Answers, which is probably a much better card than this, most likely a much better card than this. However, what this card has is that you can cast it for no mana if you decide to plot it, which one of the big things that I have experienced from piloting Rakdos Burn or Rakdos Madness is is that sometimes you don't have enough of the right pips in your lands to play the madness cards as you would want to play them. And this kind of solves that issue. I mean, you do have to basically time walk yourself in order to make that happen, but it could have a pretty big payoff. You could have a very explosive turn where you get to basically play your madness card and you really have a choice of which one you're doing. So, I think that's pretty interesting. Also, the ability to sacrifice a land if you just need to draw some cards is also kind of nice, since it doesn't have to be an artifact, like Demand Answers, for example. And you kind of want to make sure you do have your Metalcraft count in Rakdos Madness, is one of your best burn spells is definitely Galvanic Blast. So I think this does have a little bit of consideration for the deck. It's something that I may try out. Right now, we'll have to see. Um, I think this card is definitely good. Could for sure see a home in Madness, as it definitely does everything that that deck wants to do. And as I've kind of talked about before on this channel with Madness, is that there has been a lot of times where you just run out of discard outlets, and I think that's a big thing to kind of push that deck into the place that it wants to go. Is that having as many discard outlets as you can possibly get in that deck, I think is really important. And this card definitely does that. Also lets you play a zero mana discard outlet, which I think is something worth looking into. And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these new red commons with me. Would love to know what you think, though. Are there some new red cards that you think should have made the list? Do you agree or disagree with the cards that I selected and my assessment of them? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, guys, I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.